Back here, first things first, and we are going viral. DeAndre Hopkins is having another dominant season, on pace for more than 1,400 yards. Deshaun Watson has been a big part of that success, but Hopkins hasn't always had such a solid quarterback throwing his way. CeCe spoke about just that earlier this week.
And, man, it's hard to play in the slot with, man, a guy who can't throw, a guy can't time it up. Man, it makes your job more difficult. So as a wide receiver, I don't believe in making excuses. You have to be the constant force. You have to be the professional. You have to bring the excellence to the passing game. You have to be predictable because you're not going to have that from your quarterback.
All right, so Hopkins hopped on Twitter and retweeted this video with the comment, "Facts." Pretty cool.
He's one of the best in the league, man. He's one of the best in the league. He's a more kind of soft-spoken guy than a lot of wide receivers we know. And he has just gone about doing his job with awful quarterback play for the entirety of his career until last year, the 6 games with Deshaun. Then he went right back to awful quarterback play with Tom Savage. Now Deshaun's back. When was this picture, see?
I went there to do a feature for him.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Probably like when you were in kindergarten.
Oh,
you're probably throwing up your Cheerios.
No, I was living in Houston when this happened, I think.
Yeah, I did a feature on him, and I was showing him some of the hand exercises. He's a guy, too, that works behind the scene, has really worked on his game, his overall route running. His hands have always been outstanding since he came from Clemson, but he's become one of the great route runners. There's only a few of them in the league, but very, very proud of how he's developed.
Nice. All right, time for some stories to start your morning on this Friday morning. The NFL, known for its parity, and this year it has lived up to the billing. A whopping 26 teams are still alive for the playoffs. That is the highest number with 3 weeks left to play since 2004. Nick, how great has this season been?
Well, I mean, it is remarkable that you've got only 6 teams eliminated, and we've got 3 weeks left in the season. Now, I understand there's another 6 that are almost essentially eliminated, but they're still alive. You can't put a Z next to their name saying out of the playoff race. So, no, it's you look at, hey, Green Bay, 5-7-1. They still have a path to the playoffs. The Browns at 5-7-1. They still got a path to the playoffs. So it is, the NFL's a parity league, more so this year than any I can remember.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. I love the fan bases that have hope, because typically every 3 to 5 years you're going to be part of those teams that, yeah, we're a part of this. We can actually get to a Super Bowl, but it's part of the NFL model. That's why the draft works. That's why free agency works. And the current salary cap that we have, it works.
All right, moving on. Wide receiver Amari Cooper has been dominant since getting to Dallas, and Raiders owner Mark Davis might have some regrets. He said, in the future, we might be saying, damn. See, you agree with him?
You got the wrong inflection.
Oh, damn.
The Cowboys fans are saying, damn.
Damn.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay,
Raiders
let me do it again.
Damn.
Damn.
There you go. Go ahead, Steve.
Glad we got to the bottom of that.
I don't know when he gonna start saying damn, but whenever he start, he gonna be saying it for a long, long time. Jerry Jones, it's not the first time he has gotten the better end of a business deal. Amari Cooper is an elite wide receiver, will be a Pro Bowler for a number of years for the Cowboys.
I do find it interesting. I read a quote from Amari Cooper yesterday saying, no, it wasn't Gruden or McKenzie that wanted to trade me. It was Mark Davis. I wonder who maybe told him it wasn't Gruden who wanted to trade him.
You can believe that. You get off the show, Ket and them going to tell you Chris ain't had nothing to do with it, but you can believe.
Oh, okay.
You can believe I will have something to do with it. And not you, but just anyone.
In general. Okay.
Yeah, the whole show.
I got you.
Just like to put them on notice.
Let us end on Thursday Night Football.
Friday's a good day to get fired.
Where Philip Rivers put on a good show in the second half. He completed 64% of his passes, tossed the game-winning touchdown and the 2-point conversion. And get this, Rivers threw for 10 first downs in the second half. CeCe, how dangerous is this Chargers team, especially if they find a way to win the AFC West? I mean,
this is Philip Rivers, who he is. I love the game planning of Ken Whisenhunt. From the first play of the game, deep drop back pass, they had a guy wide open, but they get a rush, all right? They're not able to complete that, but their game plan to be aggressive and take advantage of this secondary, it was consistent throughout all 4 quarters. And when they needed it the most, in the 4th, that's where they went to be able to generate their big plays. So great. I'm not surprised by Philip Rivers. That's what he does. I mean, he battles. It looks ugly. He will sit in the pocket. He will take that beating that we expect the older quarterbacks to take. This new NFL because he can't avoid him. He's not going anywhere in the pocket. That's why Kansas City was playing two-man at the end and not concerned about him. But, man, he's one of the gunslingers that we do have. He picked apart that defense at the end. And even without his top receiver, Keenan being on the sideline with a hip injury he suffered in the first quarter.
If they end up getting the 1 seed, so if they win their last 2 and the Chiefs slip up next week at Seattle, which is absolutely in play, my guess is they'll be slight underdogs in that game. If they're the 1 seed, I think they're the favorites in the AFC. Now, if they're the 5 seed, I think they're not dead, but I think it's incredibly difficult to expect a team to go on the road in the first round of the playoffs against the AFC North winner, Baltimore or Pittsburgh. Then on the road to the 1 seed, which would probably be Kansas City, beat them there again. And then on the road to whoever's left on the other side of the bracket, either Houston or New England. So, but if they are able to win their next 2, they'll be 13-3, obviously. If the Chiefs slip up one time now, it's the Chargers division. And as the 1 seed, I think they're the most well-rounded team in the conference. I don't know if they're the best team in the conference, but I think they're the most well-rounded team in the conference.
Who are the next 2 for the Chargers?
They have Baltimore, and then they're at Denver. It's not an easy road.
It's not an easy road.
And so, but I just don't think the Chargers can win 3 straight road games in the playoffs. But I absolutely think if the Chiefs slip up and they're now
But
in a
you
position,
do think the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL?
I do think the Chiefs are the best team in the AFC.
So last night for a young team, a young coach going on the road, beating who Nick considers to be the best team in the league. That's a tremendous amount of momentum to be able to create, taken into, if they get into the postseason. So if they're the 5 seed, I wouldn't want to be facing the Chargers. Like, I wouldn't want to, based on, I mean, it's not like last night they played some great game. All right, this is who they are. They're very, very talented. They overcame some tremendous mistakes and stayed in this game. They could have gotten blown out in this game. Very impressive win last night.
And that's the macro look. The micro, taking a little momentum, pushing forward, is to win it the way they want it on the 2-point conversion, showing that they are going to go for the win, and they're going to be, not as conservative as they've been in years past, and they're going to be far more aggressive. I think that helps as well.
And they're a team right now without a glaring weakness. You said, and correctly, that I do think the Chiefs are still the best team in the AFC, but that's because their strength, their offense is so overwhelming. They have a glaring weakness in their secondary. The Chargers don't have a glaring weakness. The Chargers are B-level or above at everything. And when Melvin Gordon gets back, you add the running game to that. And so the Chargers are an incredibly dangerous team. It's unfortunate for them. The rules are set up the way they are because at the worst-case scenario right now, they should be looking at the 2 seed. Right. But because of the way the NFL playoffs are set up, the best they can do is the 5 unless the Chiefs lose another game.
The Chiefs have more than a problem with their secondary. They got a running back problem. And they got a running problem. If they run the ball 17 times, their linebacking core and their secondary will get exploited at the end of games. So they do have more than just one problem.
Much like Chargers, though, they do have a running back coming back. Not to the caliber of Melvin Gordon, but they do have Spencer Ware.
Spencer, he is not Kareem Hunt.
No, I understand.
I knew Spencer was coming back. I didn't forget that. They still have a running back problem because Spencer Ware cannot create the big plays in the screen game that they are used to.
All right, moving on to a big matchup this weekend between 2 of the AFC's top quarterbacks and 2 of the league's oldest quarterbacks. Tom Brady heading to Pittsburgh to face off against Ben Roethlisberger and the Pittsburgh Steelers. However, hasn't been much of a rivalry as Brady is 9-3 against Big Ben. Steelers are fighting for their playoff lives after losing their last 3, and desperation can be a powerful force. Big Ben knows it'll be tough to outduel Tom Brady.
And anytime you can share the field with maybe the greatest of all time, you should cherish it and value it and try and outplay him. That's not an easy task, but and like you said, I don't go against him, but it's a neat thing to play against one of the best of all time.
Why are you shaking your head, Steve?
Because Ben, he's double-minded.
He's double-minded.
Oh, absolutely. He said, oh, man, anytime you take the field with the greatest of all time, you take pride and you try to outplay him. Oh, I'm not playing against
he's just answering.
For a guy that's been in the league as long as he gets these press conferences, I swear he sounds like an amateur.
Well, what would it mean for the Steelers' future if they do miss the playoffs?
Well, the Steelers franchise has had unusual amount of patience. And have we been through this before where we thought not only with Mike Tomlin there were spots where he might get fired, but who he proceeded as a coach, and Bill Cowher. It was all the time, man. We thought, oh, Bill Cowher, he's definitely they're gonna let him go. But this Steelers franchise always has had more patience. So I would say no. I don't believe this game is going to determine the future. No, the Steelers, I don't think that as an organization, they think in the free agent coaching market, they can get a better coach than Mike Tomlin. All right? I don't listen to the general public when I'm trying to figure out what does an organization want in their coach and what they expect from their coach. It's been a tough season based on a number of things, but I don't believe that the organization believes that the coach is the problem. And they just have shown too much as far as patience, more so than any franchise in any sport.
In any sport. I mean, the Browns have had as many coaches in the last 5 years as the Steelers have had in the last 50. So, I mean, the last coach they fired was in 1968, a guy named Bill Austin. They went to Chuck Noll, who's one of the all-time greats, Bill Cowher, and then Mike Tomlin. And it should be noted about Bill Cowher, he's a Super Bowl champion. But that happened at the end. They stuck with him with a lot of, they made the Super Bowl in '95 against Dallas with Neil O'Donnell, but they stuck with Cowher a long time before he won that championship. I don't think, even if going from 7-2-1, which is where they were, to missing the playoffs, which is your question, like, that is a devastating fall. That is the type of fall that in a lot of instances gets major changes put into place. But with Pittsburgh, I don't believe they would fire Mike Tomlin, and they're not going to change the quarterback, obviously. Those are the two major changes. Now, I would say if they go from 7-2-1 to out of the playoffs, there does need to be some accountability laid at the feet of everyone, not just Mike Tomlin. And that does include number 7. That does include, when we talk about the team as a whole, what has happened during this losing streak, the interceptions in the end zone against Denver, the meltdown defensively, but also offensively against the Chargers, and then the game last week against Oakland. Nobody, if you're 7-2-1 and you end up missing the playoffs, nobody should come out of it unscathed. It's everybody's fault. It's a institutional failure if that were to happen. And they've got back-to-back really tough games against New England and then in New Orleans. So it's absolutely on the board. That's exactly what does happen, to go from 7-2-1 to out of the playoffs.
7-2-1 is an impressive record when you've had the season that this Steelers team has had. Every week we kept saying they'll get back on track. They'll deal with the Lev Bell situation. James Conner may not be great, but he's okay. Oh, James Conner's great. Oh, James Conner is hurt. There's the stuff that Big Ben pointing fingers at various people. Mike Tomlin showing his hand a little bit in press conferences. It's just, you never felt like they got their traction going where you said, okay, I feel like the Steelers are going to be okay. So to go from 7-2-1 with the kind of season they've had is impressive. So yeah, I think if they do miss the playoffs at this point, it is somewhat disappointing.
Well, they have disappointed the last several years. Let's not go back to last season. In the playoffs, didn't they lose a couple times to Jacksonville?
They lost once the regular season, then the playoffs.
He almost retired.
All right, with home field advantage. So we thought they didn't have a great offseason. Why? Because it continued on with L. Bell. Got rid of their offensive coordinator, have a new. So Ben was supposed to be happy. They've had this going on. Last year, they had the protest controversy. So this has been going on in Pittsburgh, and I just believe it bleeds into winning and losing games. This is not a tight fit unit. That's why you see the disjointedness between the coach and the stars sometime at the press conference. So in that locker room, it's always been a challenge the last several years for them to be on the same page. And to me, it's just hard to win NFL games when everyone is not on the same page. You don't have everyone pulling in the same direction. And in Pittsburgh, that's just been common practice the last several years.
All right, we're going to break there. Coming up, can Dak Prescott make it 6 wins in a row versus the Colts? That is next.